Take one.
Hi, I'm Noah Preminger, and this is Jazz Language, a podcast that gives an inside look into the music industry.
Let's cut.
Hi.
Hey.
Our guest today is Lydia Liebman, somebody I've known your family, you and your family, since what we were talking before, 1998, I think.
Goodness.
I was 12, and I met your father, great saxophone player Dave Liebman, and I came to your hometown to meet him. That's when I met you and your family. So it's been all these years.
Yeah, the Poconos. You were out there.
So it's just this is particularly meaningful to me to have you here.
Thanks
I'm really excited.
for having me. And yeah, I'm excited to chat with you.
So you grew up in the Poconos.
I did.
In Pennsylvania. And then you moved to New York City how many years ago?
2014.
Cool.
So yeah, going on 12
decade.
years.
About a decade, yeah.
Yeah.
And so growing up out in the Poconos, which is pretty remote, right? With a musical family.
My mom is a jazz oboist and an ear training extraordinaire. And she has taught so many musicians ear training. And by the time they would go to college, they would pass out of all of the harmony and ear training courses, and because they were already advanced. So my mom is kind of like a Yoda in that way, and my dad, is the saxophone Yoda too. So
well, you got a family of educators.
I did, yeah. So I grew up in that type of environment, and seeing a lot of folks, like yourself, like really talented young musicians just from the jump. I was just constantly surrounded by that. So it set the bar very high in everything.
So, all right. So we'll get into the PR thing, because you're a full-time publicist and you have been for years now.
That's right.
And so we'll get into what that means shortly. But just take us back, like growing up with a musical family in a remote area like the Poconos, the type of characters that came into your life.
Yeah, I'm super grateful to have grown up in the environment I did. The Poconos is about 90 minutes or so from New York City. So it's out there, but it's not super, super, super out there. So because of that, there would be a lot of people from the city that would move to our area. So there were a lot of artists, a lot of musicians, a lot of artists. Phil Woods was living there. Bob Dorough was there. Zoot Sims and Al Cohn had some sort of history there, earlier. And it was just a very vibrant artistic community. There was this club, there still is this club called the Deer Head Inn, which is there, one of the oldest operating jazz clubs in the country. And I spent so much time there. There's a jazz festival every year there, the Celebration of the Arts. So
Serious community.
Yes, there was definitely a community. So there was a lot of that. And of course, there was a lot of super heavy cats that would come through. I mean, literally everybody. I mean, Michael Brecker and Joe Lovano and these guys are like my family. I mean, right. Billy Hart is, I consider him like an uncle to me. These are people that are still so close to me and were just in my life from the get-go. The irony is that when you are a kid and you're growing up and your parents are doing what they do, it's common for us to just sort of want to not be involved in that because that's what your parents do, So when I was young and kind of growing up, I didn't really process a lot of what I was seeing. I didn't really process that, Randy Brecker was having dinner at my house. What does that mean? So it kind of took me a minute to get there. And then when I was around maybe 13, 14, 15, really, I started to actually kind of embrace this part of my life. And my dad always tells the story that up until that point, I was listening to just pretty unremarkable music, things that my dad and my mom were like, God, what's going to happen to our kid? And then one day my dad heard a Love Supreme, coming out of my bedroom. And he was like, oh,
he's like, success.
Finally, And it was, one day I just went to our piano room, kind of our music room in the house. And I just pulled, Train Live at the Village Vanguard. I pulled it off the shelf and I pulled the whole Columbia sessions. And I just ripped it all, onto my laptop at the time. And I just went to town.
Right on.
Yeah. And that's really where it started. So,
but no playing.
I did. So I did sing. I did do piano. I took piano lessons all throughout, when I was a kid. And I did do a lot of vocal stuff, but I was doing musical theater and that scene. And then I did do jazz vocal lessons as well. I studied with Nancy Reed. Amazing.
You went to Emerson?
I did go to Emerson.
In Boston?
I did. But before that, at home, I was doing a lot of music stuff. But the thing that I think is interesting that contributes to why I do what I do now is because of the level of artistry that I was around as a kid constantly. The bar was extraordinarily high. And so there were these players and saxophonists particularly that would come to the house. They'd do my dad's jazz camp, saxophone camp, or all these different things. Right. And they were amazing. I mean, the level is insane. So for me, I saw that and I was like, God, does the world really need another jazz singer? And if they do, should that really be me? Because I am okay, but I'm not at this level, and I don't practice the way that these kids do. And these students that would come to my house and it's like this was their life. And I knew that I didn't have that drive to be a, performing artist. That just wasn't something that I just didn't feel what I feel like you need to feel to do that for a living.
Makes sense.
And I realized that, kind of my first year, kind of going into college, I went to school for political communications. That was my first major.
That was your thing. Mm-hmm. Okay.
And, after a semester of that, I was like, okay, this is definitely not for me. Thank goodness, because I would never be able to do this stuff now. But I kind of fell into the production side of things, radio and film. And I then ended up being a producing major at Emerson. And I also did half my course load at Berkeley.
So
that's how I got here.
So I have a friend named Eric Hofbauer.
Oh, sure. Yeah. One of my clients. I worked with Eric.
I know.
He was my professor too.
He's my department chair at a school I teach at.
That's right. Of course he is.
And we were talking a couple of days ago, just catching up. And I told him that we were going to be sitting down soon. And he's like, Lydia. And he told me a really sweet story
what did he
about
tell you?
Well,
now you got to tell me.
No, just that you were in his class. Mm-hmm. And just something really sweet that you said about wanting to learn more about jazz music to connect with your family. It was really nice.
Yeah.
And how awesome you are. And then he worked with you.
I worked with him on a couple of records, and he was a great professor too. And I love that they taught that at Emerson. That was nice. They taught history of jazz. Thank goodness.
He still teaches there.
Yeah, that's great. They need to keep him forever.
He's one of my favorite people.
Oh yeah, he's the best.
So cool. Okay, so then you lived in Boston.
I did.
What happened in Boston?
Yeah, did Emerson College, did Berkeley as well. There was a great program where you kind of take classes at different schools, the Pro Arts Consortium, they called it. I don't know if they still have it, but I did that. So I ended up taking half my course load at Berkeley. I got special approval to take the core. So I took harmony, I took ear training, I took arranging, I did ensembles, I did all that stuff. Part of me was continuing the musical studies that I did in high school and before that, just to continue doing that because that's what I knew to do. But I also always thought that, not that I woke up one day and said, I'm going to be a publicist, but I kind of knew that I would eventually, realized I would be doing something in the business side of this and that it would be jazz.
Did somebody give you the idea? What about this?
Sort of. It was honestly, what got me there was that when I was taking these classes at Berkeley, my thought process is if I'm going to do a business thing in jazz, I really need to also understand what I'm dealing with from a musical standpoint. I need to really understand harmony. I need to actually understand what it is that I am
selling,
and at that time I was really more involved in radio. But even that, to be able to intelligently articulate on air about what you're listening to, I think it's just important to understand those things. So that is really what, in the end, kind of drove me to continue doing the core at Berkeley. So I did have the musical stuff, and then I, did the stuff at Emerson. And basically how it got there was I was doing a jazz radio show at Emerson. I took it extraordinarily seriously. It was an internet radio station called WECB, which I then became the general manager of for 4 years. So I was really in it. I was also on WERS at Emerson. I tried to get them to bring jazz back, and they were like, well, we can't, but you could still do other stuff for us. So I did that. And on my radio show, I had everybody from Chick Corea to Pat Metheny to Gregory Porter as guests. I had Chick Corea doing my station IDs.
Damn.
I really went for it.
That's awesome.
But it was through that I became acquainted with that side of things. And so I met radio promoters, like Mark Reaney and Josh Ellman of Groove Marketing. I got to know them. And it was actually Ann Braithwaite who, is the most incredible amazing person and just such a legendary jazz publicist. And it was really her, the first like publicist I met. My dad had hired her when he got the NEA award. And it wasn't that I met her and was like, ooh, this could be a job one day. It was just that I became aware that that is something that exists.
Right.
And it just kind of naturally progressed to that. I was promoting shows in Boston for my friends. I was making flyers and posters and had this like 10-mile route that I would go all around the city through Cambridge and like put them up at all these stores. They all knew me. And I did this like for 4 years and I lived there. And then it kind of got to the point where my friends would be like, I have an album I'm recording. Like, do you think you can help me get this out there? And I was like, okay, I have no idea how to do that, but let me figure it out.
Right.
And some of those artists I still work with today, you know, like 12, 13, 15 years later, I'm still working with them.
You know, you have like, just knowing you all these years and talking to you, just seeing this face to face now, you have a personality that's very different than the other publicists out there.
Oh, yeah?
No,
Tell me more.
I mean, you are very outgoing.
Yeah, well,
you know,
it helps with the job.
There are certainly some publicists that are not outgoing.
I know that.
Even polar opposite.
Yes.
Do you feel like having the personality you have has really opened doors?
I think it helps. I mean, I think just being able to deal and talk to people.
I mean, you're personable. Like you're easy to talk to and
like,
likable. And
I like talking to people. I actually like I wouldn't say I like dealing with people because
no, people suck.
Because I actually am often like pretty much every single day I ask myself like, what is wrong with someone I talk to that day?
Oh no,
not you. Trust me. I had a whole day before I even got here, so don't even worry. But no, I actually though for the most part, I mean, I like dealing with people. I like being around people. I like talking to people, and I just enjoy doing that. You know.
Okay, so let's get into the PR thing. So what does a publicist do? A jazz publicist?
So really our job is to kind of be the liaison between the media and the artist, and then that is conveyed to the audience. So we are basically, you know, helping to tell their story, get it out there. I mean, in the like just bare bones of it all, I promote mostly people's new recordings, and I am getting them in the hands of people that will cover it. And we are trying to get clients that I work with to be more well known, pretty much. I mean, that's honestly like the bottom line. It's really just to like raise the profile of the people that we work with.
Okay, so you would say that's sort of the reward of like if let's say you're going to teach a class at Emerson,
which I do. I teach a class at the New School all about PR, and
right on.
I do. Yeah,
and so when a student's like, "What's the risk reward for hiring a publicist or being in that industry?" You know, the tough part is there's not a lot of bread.
No kidding.
For anybody.
Totally.
But for musicians, you know, and you know that just as well as anybody coming from a musical family.
100%.
We've seen it. So like spending tons of money to get press.
Yep.
What's the upside?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I mean, about the bread and the ROI and all of that. I mean, the first thing is this, like, I think that publicists in general kind of get a bad rap. And I think a lot of the time it is deserved because a lot of my colleagues, not like my direct colleagues, but just other publicists in general, it's a loose term. And
there's a lot of them.
There's a lot in all fields. I mean, this is what I tell my students, you know, anyone in any type of field at all can have a publicist. I mean, if you're a great doctor, you can have a publicist. If you're an amazing architect, you can have a publicist. I mean, that's kind of just how it is. So there are then a lot of people that are in those roles doing those jobs.
Right.
So I think that with PR, people are kind of expecting that it's going to cost like a shit ton of money and it's going to be like so much. And, you know, that maybe it's all going to be kind of like just a lot of like sweet talking and, you know, like the deliverables are maybe kind of like vague on like what you're getting out of it and all of that. I will say that one thing with me, I keep my rates kind of intentionally not astronomical. I kind of keep them within a certain range. I haven't really like raised my rates much over the years, even though I've had over 50 Grammy nominations and definitely could, you know, but I just don't feel that that's an ethical thing to do. I know how much money comes in and doesn't in this field because I grew up in it.
Right.
And no matter what it is, I mean, we are still dealing with a very small market. And there is kind of, you know, only so much you can go. Now, that doesn't mean that, like you're throwing in the towel, but it's just that there is, in general, for most artists, there's going to be kind of a ceiling that they're going to hit unless they make like a major change in their career. And it's all different depending on who it is. But my point is like, I just think that the ROI, you have to keep in mind like what you're going to get back on it. And so I try to keep my rates affordable, still an investment, but not such an investment where it's like impossible for you to feel like you've gotten positive stuff out of it. I think sometimes, again, people will be like, well, PR people, they just like, take your money and run. I mean, that's not, at least that's not how I operate, But now as far as like, what do you get out of it? I mean, it's a heavy question.
Well, what are people paying for? I mean, you're saying it's to get their music out there, right?
Yeah.
Which is obviously important.
Right.
And so in building a career, whatever that means.
Right.
So are people paying for press? Paying for reviews?
This is the way I see it. I see it as if someone is hiring me, they're paying me for my expertise and connections, basically, to get their music in front of the right people who want to amplify it. So that could mean getting reviews. That could mean getting features in print publications. That could mean getting on the radio. It could mean getting on TV. I mean, it really depends on what it is that the artist is looking for. It also depends on what they're able to offer. And, everything has to align. So, for instance, I work with Lakeisha Benjamin. We got Lakeisha Benjamin on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. It took me like a year to make that happen. It took me like a year to make her Tiny Desk confirm. I mean, these things take forever, and just because that happened with her, that doesn't mean that that's going to happen with every single jazz saxophonist that works with me. I wish it did, but I understand that everybody's story is different. So for me, I think that when an artist comes to me, I am tasked with looking at the whole package of wherever it is that they're at that time and being like, okay, what is it that you want to do? Is that realistic? Can we get you there? And what are your goals for the next project? To be kind of thinking ahead so we can constantly be on like those building blocks to further an artist's career over a long term.
So it's almost like quasi-career coaching.
It really does end up being kind of like that, and sometimes I look at myself even more of like as kind of like a strategist versus like a publicist. I mean, just because it's really a lot of like strategizing in the end of, your career overall. Now, I work very project by project. I do have artists that are on retainer that I work with on the regular basis. Catherine Russell is one of those, people that are really busy and are out here. But most of the time I'm going on a project by project situation. What ends up happening though is that usually the artist is, like good with their experience and they want to continue working with me. So it ends up becoming a longer arc. And there are artists I've worked with for, oh my gosh, years, but also like 6, 7 albums. I mean, I've done, like 10 albums for some people. They just keep coming back, and that's how you do it.
I got another question about
this.
And then maybe we can move on to some more fun questions.
No, let's go, Noah.
So somebody referred to you recently as Grammy Queen, which is like a ridiculous, hilarious thing. But why is that such a big deal?
Yeah.
And is the Grammy thing BS? Get into it. Spill your guts. Let's hear it all.
I will. Okay, yeah. So we've had, and I say we because it's not, while the company is like Lydia Liebman Promotions, I have, amazing people that have worked with me and work with me over the years. So I like to say we because it's definitely not just me. So we have been super fortunate to have, I think it's like 52 or 53 nominations, and I think like 15 wins so far. Yeah, nobody, just me counting. So we've had a lot. So because of that, yes, there's been like this reputation. I think that it's like word's gotten around that we might like know how to like
do it,
do this.
Get it done. Yeah.
This is the way I see it. The Grammys is just like anything else that you can partake in your career. It's like another thing that you can do and play the game if you want to, in the sense that there's always going to be these opportunities for any field that, can advance your career. Like in some cases it's getting grants. In other cases it's like doing American Idol. I mean, like whatever.
They're like little shortcuts almost.
I mean, whatever. Or just like different things you can do to help your career. I look at the Grammys as just one of those mechanisms. I do not think that a Grammy makes or breaks anyone's career unless you get one of the main ones like Samara did. Best New Artist is a huge thing. And that's something that...
Or Esperanza Spalding.
Correct, yes. Yeah. I mean, if you're able to... once you get that Grammy, it's up to you and your team to really make it work and make the most out of it. Obviously, those artists have, they figured it out. The reality is that a Grammy in these jazz categories, it's very important for you personally because you can put that G, in front of your name going forward, and you can maybe ask for a little bit more money. Maybe you have a better leg to stand on to look for a booking agent, or maybe to get a better manager, or, it signals to the industry that you're, someone that a lot of people voted for. So obviously maybe like worth paying attention to.
Right.
But is it going to change your career overnight? Like, absolutely not. It comes down to you and like what you are able to do with that. So when it comes to the Grammys, I mean, the process of getting a Grammy nomination has changed a bit over the last couple of years. It used to be committees. Now it is like a direct democracy vote. So they say, where whoever gets the most votes is who gets nominated, So the way to do that is to connect with your fellow voters and to basically like kind of put yourself out there and do that exchange, do that lobbying, like do that.
You do that.
We guide our clients to help them do that. Okay. Yeah. And it's not really rocket science. It's just like.
It's a smooth fest.
It's just talk. Yeah. Yes. Which honestly, I actually can't stand it. I'm being super honest.
You're good at it though.
Yeah, yes.
Like you can do it.
But what I can't stand is the fakeness of it. What I guess it's a little idealistic, but when I started doing this, like started getting into this Grammy thing, which was many years ago, an independent label had brought me on to help them, and he exposed this world to me of the independent artists and how they can, have a better chance of getting a Grammy, which is literally just talking to as many people as you can and making them get to know your music and whatever. So I guess, again, a little naive, but like ideologically, I see it as, well, we are putting the music in front of the people that care, and it is up to them to make the call on who they want to vote for when they make their final 5 selections. But I want to be able to present the project or have my artist present the project to them in a way that makes it the most likely that they'll get a listen at least. But it's up to the voter to decide like who they're going to vote for, and that's always what I say. I mean, the music in the end should really be like the defining factor.
There's a lot of I've gotten random messages like 100%. I'll vote for you if you vote for me.
Yeah, I mean that type of like direct exchange is, it's against the rules, but it's also not like, that's just, that's not the way to do it in my book. No. But I don't think there's a problem with like approaching somebody for the first time, being like, hey, if you happen to be voting for large ensemble jazz album, I would love to send you my project. And, if Preminger on the other line there are like, okay, sure, I'll listen to your record and you like it. I mean, that's cool. Not? Like, why not? Right. So that part I dig. I like that. The problem is that, not everybody is thinking that way. And there is a lot of this kind of like, scratch backs vibes happening. And that I don't love.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes you can see that reflected in some of the nominees that happen, and you're like, wow, like and it's okay, whatever, like I'm it is what it is, and I'm happy for those artists too because they figured out how to make it work for them, and in the end, like we're all in a business,
no doubt.
And I think that's the thing. It's like you play saxophone, but for a living. I mean, you got to make money from that, right? And you got to like have your life, like, so if you can figure out how to make the business work for you. I mean, I'm also like, I'm not necessarily like down to knock that totally either. I just think that it can be an interesting quandary to find yourself in. So when it comes to the Grammys, I guess the bottom line is like, I'm proud of the work we've done. I am so proud of my artists that have been nominated and won. Especially there are some artists like Sullivan Fortner won this year. I was so happy.
I mean, so great.
Yeah, Gonzalo Rubalcaba won, for jazz instrumental album many years ago, which was a huge deal because I don't believe that there has been like any Cuban artist who's won that award, ever. So it was great to be part of that.
Right.
Lakeisha's had 6 nominations. I mean, these are things that I'm extraordinarily proud of, but I also like to just remind the world and myself that there is more than just getting a Grammy nomination or a Grammy win. It's just part of the puzzle. And you can also choose not to participate in it.
Right.
And the last thing I'll just say, it's really ironic that this has become like my moniker because when I was growing up and my dad was nominated for a Grammy in like 1996 or 7, I was really, really, really young, but I knew what that meant. And I was like super excited. I was like, oh my gosh, like, are we going to be able to like meet Britney Spears and like see the Backstreet Boys? And my dad was like, absolutely not. I'm not going to that. I don't believe in anybody judging my music. Like, no way. Like, that's not, no. And that was how I grew up, that like awards are, don't do that.
So I studied with your dad from age 12 to about 17.
Yeah.
And we had this really cool connection where I would come down to your place, take a lesson, and then he would give me some assignments to do, and I would do them, and then months later I would send them to him, snail mail them to him, and then he would call me and we'd talk about it and then find another time to get together, and it was sort of like that for like 5 years. But your dad is like the epitome of tough love with me. I mean, the freaking stories that are so not appropriate to tell in this. And I learned more from your father than anybody else in my life. I mean, I owe your dad so much for what he offered me as a teacher, as a like a freaking life coach or something, you know. Just so anyway. But
thank you for saying that. That's very sweet.
I mean, I'll say it every day and yell it.
Well, I know he's very proud of you. I mean that.
And so, what was that like with that personality? Zero BS, Brooklyn, like hardcore vibe as your dad.
It's my dad. I don't, it's like, it's your father, it's so, I mean, it just was. I mean, my dad was, is, still an amazing father. I mean, he was tough love, but also like not, also just like kind of soft too. You just don't, see that
was
side.
Was he like, I'm going to murder your boyfriends kind of thing in high school?
No, he was okay. I will tell you one thing. My dad, if my boyfriends knew who Miles was, he liked them. Oh. That's all he cared about. He was like, do they know who Coltrane is? And I was like, okay. And if they didn't, he was like, don't bring them home, No so, no, I mean, my dad was growing up, I'm an only child, and my parents were strict. I mean, they were on the case, they were definitely on the case. And I was pretty good kid, especially in retrospect when I look back, and I was like, they were pulling their hair out, I'm sure, when I was a teenager, but I'm like, you guys had it really kind of easy with me.
Right.
But that was because they ran a tight ship. The biggest thing that I will say about my dad, as far as like in terms of all of this and stuff, is that, my dad obviously takes what he does very seriously, and so does my mother. My mother is an incredible educator, and she's very serious too. I didn't love practicing. I didn't really have that like pull that I feel like you need to be an artist like that. And my parents definitely could tell that. And my dad would come down on me, like, you got to practice, like get it together. And I think it became clear at some point that like, that just wasn't me, that wasn't what it was. And so my dad was and he was okay with that. They never like pushed me into music. They were not stage parents. They were very supportive of everything that I did. And I did everything. I did all the activities, like I did all that stuff. They were super supportive, but they really did like let me kind of like find my way. But they did, kind of come down on me when I was doing that, like, get your shit together, know?
So I met your dad when I was 12. A year later, 2 years later, I went back into your place. Yeah. And he sat me in the car.
Oh, gosh. You're giving me PTSD just by mentioning the car.
I'm sorry. He sat me in the Liebmobile.
Oh, God, in the Volvo.
And, maybe a Volvo.
Definitely the Volvo. Or the Gia. Okay, yeah. Go on.
He sat me there. Looked over at me.
Oh, God, you're giving me such PTSD.
I'm so sorry. It's okay. Noah, with some serious choice words.
Yeah.
Noah, you shouldn't do this anymore. You should not play saxophone anymore.
Shit. Damn, he told you that? You didn't listen to him, though.
I didn't. But, man, you're not practicing. You're not doing what you need to do. You should stop now. What are you doing wasting your time?
That's very much my dad, yeah.
With like some serious other words.
100%. Yeah, no doubt.
It terrified me. And I remember crying in his car.
Yeah, I bet.
I'm sure you cried in that car too.
Oh God, when you're talking about the car, I'm serious. Like those, my worst fear was like my dad being like, let's get in the car. Like, let's gotta drive somewhere. And I'd be like, oh God, he's going to lecture me about something,
Yeah, I've never been like so upset and terrified at the same time.
Wow. But you stuck with it, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
I wasn't going to let that take me down.
I mean, that's pretty heavy, like he said that to you and you stuck with it, right? And I think that probably signaled to him that there was something in you that was serious.
Well, that was just the tip of the iceberg from good old Dave.
But I mean, that's exactly, I will say this, as I get like older, there are things from my dad that I see in my own personality a lot. And what you describe, actually, like that, a type of like, listen, like if you're not in this, like just don't do it. I am 1,000% like that. You know, I tell that sometimes to, you know, my clients that I'm close with, and, you know, you end up life coaching them and,
right.
you know,
yeah,
talking
pull it together,
about stuff.
dude.
I mean, I'm so straight. I mean, probably like too transparent to a fault, because it's kind of like really like, I'm just very like, this is what's up.
People appreciate that.
I think
especially
they do, but
in a transaction, like
you
a
have
business.
to be. I am very much like, look, this is what's happening. This is the media market. This is like what's happening right now.
Right.
You're going to spend this money, and this is what I think we can get. We can try for this, but I think we're probably going to get this. It's hard, or it's not, or whatever. Like, are you still down with this? Are you sure you still want to do this? And I'm always very clear about that, because there is really no room for BS at all. No one has money for that. Like, there's just no room for that. So
there's also no given in your job.
No.
Right?
Isn't.
Like, you might get somebody almost no press. Or you might get them a ton of press.
It happens sometimes, you know, and there's nothing, you know, I mean, you can like.
Well, you're hustling and doing what you can.
Yeah, you do
and
what you can.
There's also a luck factor.
So much.
And a timing factor.
Oh my God, there's so many other things. And there are so many other components that contribute to a press campaign being successful that are so outside of like the realm of what people think of. I mean, just so many different things and a lot of technical things. And there's just a lot of stuff. So I always try to be like, evaluate the artist when we're talking, to be very straightforward about all those things. And yeah, I do think that a lot of that comes from like my upbringing too, because both of my parents are very much like kind of no nonsense with that stuff. You know, I mean, it just is or it isn't.
Yeah.
It is what it is, you know? So
man, it's appreciated. You rule. All right. You're so great.
Oh, you're so nice, Noah. Thanks.
Okay. We're running a little bit out of time, and I got a segment that I want to get to of this interview. It's the rapid fire segment.
Ooh, fun. Okay.
So these are like kind of quick answer things.
All right. I'll keep them brief.
Pigs in a blanket or prosciutto wrapped melon?
Definitely the prosciutto wrapped melon.
Cool.
Yeah.
Pizza or bagels?
Pizza always.
I don't know.
Pizza on a bagel, maybe. A pizza bagel.
My kid loves pizza bagels.
Oh, they're the best. I mean, the best.
Cats or dogs?
Come on. Dogs. Hello.
I know. No brainer.
Coco is my child. Love my dog more than anything. I miss him.
Top 3 cuisines?
Italian, Spanish.
Okay.
Live for that.
Like a tapas situation?
I want like a paella. Like give me like a mariscata. Yeah, I want that. And I would say after that, seafood. Like a baked lobster is happening, you know, with steamers. Give me that like Boston. When I went to Emerson, I used to like get legal seafood like, you know, delivered to my dorm. That when I realized I could get like a lobster tail, like it was gross, but because it doesn't travel well. But when I realized I could do that, my life like totally changed. So yeah, those would be my. And like an extremely rare steak. Okay, now you got me thinking about food, so you should go to the next question.
Okay. Would you rather do a neti pot every single day for the rest of your life, or live in a campsite for 5 years?
That's a tough one. I'm terrified of the neti pot, so I guess I'm going to go with the campsite, and I'm going to just make it like very chic. Okay.
All right, sweet. Coleman Hawkins or Lester Young?
Lester Young. Yeah, thought about that one a lot.
Willie or Brian Blade?
I mean, I am gonna say my husband, Willie Rodriguez.
All right, that's the right answer.
Definitely.
I just wanted to pair him against the most likable drummer ever.
No, that's a great question. Willie and I were just talking about Brian Blade this morning in the kitchen, like, you know. So it's very funny that you.
I'll let him know that. Well,
that.
he'll.
No, I mean, Brian. I'll put Brian up there, you know, as like a.
No, Willie's going to appreciate this a lot. Would you rather your car break down on the BQE?
God.
Or get 0 press for a client?
Ooh, that is a tough one.
That's some anxiety.
I am going to take the car breakdown, because that is like, it will be a really shitty night, but it'll be like one and done. The no press for a client will keep me up at night forever, and I'll feel bad, and I'll have a whole like crisis about it. It'll be very existential. So I'm going to take the car breaking down is what I'd go for. Because at least I can like make calls from the side of the road for the client that needs the press, you know. I can still do that.
Such a hard worker.
I mean, I literally did that right before we did this call, you know, this interview.
Okay. Would you rather share an Uber with Trump's immigration guy, Stephen Miller, or dinner with Kim Jong-un?
Definitely dinner with Kim Jong-un for sure.
Okay.
Because I would have a lot of questions.
Okay.
Stephen Miller, I would just want to.
Yeah, we don't need to go there. All right, this is a tough one.
Okay.
Michael or Randy Brecker?
It's tough because, okay, I mean, look, this is the thing. Like, one of my favorite albums ever is that album, I think it's Infinity, with McCoy Tyner's trio with Michael. And specifically, like, that version of Impressions, I mean, I must have listened to that thing. I mean, I was like, I would never like really transcribe because I don't have the patience, but I would do like the solos. I grew up with that in my house. And so I have memorized, I would like memorize that solo.
So Michael.
Yeah. So I got to say, like, Michael, when I was learning jazz, like getting into jazz, it was really like Michael was playing a lot with my father. And so, yeah, he's had a great impact on me.
Right. They had the summit.
Yeah. But I love Randy. And that's a really messed up question to ask me that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It felt wrong to write it.
I love Randy so much. And he is such a legend. And I'm truly actually like so inspired by Randy because he is a incredible workhorse. I mean, he is like out here on the road, I mean, he is a hustler and does everything. And I just adore him and his family and miss Michael.
Elvin or Roy Haynes?
Elvin.
Okay.
Yeah, I got to say that. I mean, I don't know if I'd be here if it wasn't for Elvin.
Right. Okay, would you rather go skydiving or be stuck in a coffin for 30 minutes?
If I could sleep in the coffin for 30 minutes, that'd be all right. No one can call me, right? Because I can't pick up the phone.
No, you need to
like
eyes open staring at the top of it.
I could handle it, but I also would skydive. I could do both. I would do both.
Okay, I guess
if I had to pick one, I guess
fear of heights or fear of claustrophobia.
Or
I guess
not an
redundant.
issue. I think the scariest thing that you've said so far is not getting any press for the client. So I'm okay with both of those things.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Would you rather have explosive diarrhea or vomiting?
I'll take the diarrhea. I hate vomiting. I can't do that. I don't really throw up very much, and when I do, it like terrifies me because I don't do it that much. So I'll take I'll because again I can like make calls. I can do emails like while that's happening. It's hard to do that when you're what I mean.
So good.
And
man, I got norovirus last year from my kid, and that's
like both
combo.
at the same time, right?
Yes, same time. Yeah, that was brutal. Dream person or band to do PR for? Who's the one?
Listen, if Tori Amos did a jazz album, I would tell her to call me. Okay. So Tori. I'm a huge fan of Tori. Okay. No, but seriously, I mean, okay, like if like Joni Mitchell was like, hi, like Lydia, like, I would give everything for that. But I will say, like, there's been like a lot of artists I've like wanted, like I really wanted to work with Donnie McCaslin for like a really long time, and then like he called me, and I was so happy to work with him. We had a great time. Like,
that's an awesome feeling.
So like stuff like that. Like I was super happy to like work with Donnie. Okay. There's been many artists that I've gotten the honor to work with that I wanted to work with for a while, but I'm really like big about like not poaching anyone, and I never go up to an artist and be like, I really want to work with you. I just like don't do that. Right. So I've
seen that shit happen.
Yeah, I do not do that. I've never done that. I just don't do that. It's just not comfortable for me. I've never ever lobbied for myself like that. So they got to like come to me. So when they do, it like even feels even better because like I didn't have to beg them for it,
Totally. Okay, I've got two more.
Okay.
Your ideal dinner date, like a person that you would want to have dinner with. Dead or alive?
Besides my husband?
Besides your husband.
I mean, this is such a cliche answer, but I'm sure many people would say the same thing. But I would have like done anything to like have like had a meal with like David Bowie. I'm a humongous David Bowie fan. I saw him in 2004. I was like in his like presence because we were backstage because of Mike Garson as a good friend of the family, and I regret that I didn't like get a chance to meet him at that time. But I think that David Bowie was just an absolute genius, and I would have loved to have had a minute with him. Yeah.
Super cool.
So that would probably be, that would be up there. That would be up there.
Okay, last question.
Okay.
Your favorite music is what?
I love a good sad girl singer-songwriter.
Like who?
I've been listening to a lot of PJ Harvey. I've been listening to a lot of Cat Power forever.
Nice.
I listen to a lot of, Kristen Hirsch and a lot of stuff like that. I listen to a lot of Sonic Youth. I listen to a lot of Broken Social Scene, a lot of Radiohead. That's actually what I kind of like listen to when I'm not doing my day-to-day job. So like, just this morning I discovered this, I found this like Japanese math rock band called Toe, lowercase t. And I was like listening to this album from 2009 this morning, and I was like, damn, like these guys are cool. Like, I just like discovered them. I've gotten recently into like My Bloody Valentine. I've been listening to Loveless like on repeat. So I have a pretty eclectic mix of music that I personally like. And I think it surprises people sometimes when they're like, oh, you mean like you listen to stuff other than jazz? It's like primarily, actually.
Got to, yeah.
Yeah. So,
right on.
Yeah, I love a good, sad singer-songwriter. It's so good.
Couldn't be any more with you. I feel you.
Yeah. Who's your?
I mean,
I'm surprised to hear this from you, Noah. Who's your fave?
I mean, I'm a sucker for Elliott Smith.
Oh yeah.
I love what's his name? Sun Kill Moon.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I covered a Sun Kill Moon song for.
Did you really?
For Chill Tone. Red Room Painters, which I think is also the same guy.
Yeah.
Matt Cosley.
Yeah.
I've got a playlist. I'll send it to you.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
Thank you so much for doing this.
Thanks for having me.
This is really great. And please give both your parents a big hug for me.
I will. Thank you for having me. This was fun. You asked great questions. You could do this if the saxophone thing doesn't work out. I think you would be like a great
I'm doing
host.
it, baby.
I mean, you're already doing it.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, dude.